Good afternoon, Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse me, and Happy New Year. I hope this year will be filled with prosperity and good health for you. My name is Valerie Bankhead, and along with my co-chair, Phyllis Wade, in the Arts and Letters Committee of the Raleigh Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Incorporated. We welcome you an afternoon with the author and book discussion. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and in recognition of this month, we partnered with the Domestic Violence Awareness Committee to discuss this important topic through a most informative book, Anybody's Daughter, along with its amazing author, Pamela Samuels-Young. The Raleigh Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Incorporated Arts and Letters Committee works to advance the Black experience by promoting the contribution of African Americans in the arts, past and present. The program is dedicated to identifying, executing, and promoting events and activities designed to stimulate the arts and letters awareness in the Raleigh and Wake County community. Again, welcome. We appreciate your interest and participation and are happy you chose to join us this afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah Bankhead. On behalf of the 19 Domestic Violence Awareness Committee members, including my co-chair, Dana Fields Johnson, and myself, Shamika Devane, welcome. Next slide, please. Our committee's mission is to develop, promote, educate, and implement activities and programs that provides advocacy and awareness against domestic violence in the Raleigh-Wake community. We achieve this through community and chapter committee partnerships, such as donation drives, presentations, and educational material in volunteerism. In relevant month observation activities during October, which is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, January, which is actually National Stalking and Human Trafficking Awareness Month, February, which is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month and Prevention Month, in April, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Thank you for spending the afternoon with us, as well as our partners in Arts and Letters. And next, we will receive welcoming messages from our president of the Raleigh Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Soror Lillian Davis.
Good afternoon. I bring you greetings today as the chapter president for the Raleigh Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. And from our over 360 members, we're glad that you were able to join us tonight as we now combine two of our awesome committees, the Arts and Letters Committee and the Domestic Violence Committee, as we study one of our huge literary authors today. We're thankful as though we have learned that domestic violence and human trafficking are both two topics that are difficult to discuss. But I'm glad that our chapter expanded our territory today and that we're going to sit down and talk about it and see what we can do to change what's going on currently in our community. I know that we have many guests that are here today. I hope that you will continue to support our chapter programs and events. We'll make sure that on all our social media pages that you feel welcome to attend at any time. I do want to give a special shout out to one of my fellow presidents that is joining me today from the Fort Washington Alumni Chapter, Sarah Moore. We thank you for taking your time to support Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you again for your support and sending Ms. Wade to us in our chapter. Again, everyone, I hope you enjoy. To our author, Ms. Pamela Samuels-Young, thank you for choosing Raleigh Alumni to do this discussion today. I hope you enjoy, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dana Fields Johnson. As my co-chair Shamika Devane mentioned, I am also one of the co-chairs of the Domestic Violence Committee, and we're really happy to see you all here today to learn about this really critical issue in our community. January is Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month. And through our book discussion today about Anybody's Daughter with Ms. Samuels-Young, we will be learning about the issue, its scope, and just some of the things we can do to address it. But what is human trafficking? What does this term mean? Human trafficking is any forced or coerced labor resulting in involuntary servitude, exploitation of others for the purposes of commercial sex acts, labor, or other services. And you may hear about this as a serious national issue impacting other places, but this is happening right at our doorstep, at home here in Raleigh and in Wake County and in North Carolina in particular. And here are just a few statistics to help you understand this issue better. In the Carolinas, in 2020, 385 cases of trafficking were reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Over 4,000 cases of human trafficking have been reported in North Carolina and South Carolina since 2007. More than 65% of those cases involve trafficking for sexual purposes, and disturbingly, more than 30% of those victims were minors. North Carolina is ranked 11th among states for occurrences in human trafficking. So you see, this is something we need to pay more attention to understand how we can fight against this. Next slide. There are a number of organizations working locally and statewide to address these issues, providing things like crisis support services, intervention services, case management services to victims, emergency shelter to victims, 24-hour hotline support to connect the community to resources, as well as outreach and awareness activities. These are some of the local resources that we are aware of and may also be partnering with. Project Fight with the Salvation Army of the Carolinas, Interactive Wake County, which we have a strong local partnership with and is a resource on this issue. Wake County Victim Services Division is another strong partnership we have, and they provide a lot of supports to victims of human trafficking. Some of the national resources that we want you to know about to get more information from is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And then not on this slide, but a really important resource that I want to make you aware of is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And that you can reach that through humantraffickinghotline.org, or the 800 number is 888-373-7888. And you can reach out to one of us after this if you want to get more information on those. And I will now hand back over to one of our co-chairs for the next portion of the meeting. I think Soror Wade.
Thank you, Soror Fields Johnson. Good afternoon, sorors, families, friends, neighbors, everyone who have joined us this afternoon. As Soror Fields Johnson just said, my name is Phyllis Wade. I am one of the co-chairs of Arts and Letters Committee, and I had the distinct honor of introducing the author of the afternoon, Miss Pamela Samuels Young. I first read Pamela's Anybody's Daughter about 6 years ago when I was in the Arts and Letters Book Club of the Fort Washington Alumni Chapter in Maryland. Pamela was contacted in Los Angeles and enthusiastically agreed to join in the discussion of her book via teleconference. There was no Zoom back then, not that we knew of, so the phone was it, and it was wonderful. I think she was en route to a Super Bowl party, an event, the game, or something like that. But ladies, she took time out to share with us, and we were so grateful. Pamela engaged in a lively discussion about the characters in her book, but also the serious discussion of sex trafficking in the youth. She shared what inspired her to write the book, which you will hear shortly, as well as talked about the physical and psychological impact such an experience has on young girls. Everyone thoroughly enjoyed reading the book and agreed it educated as much as it entertained. So now for her bio. Award-winning novelist Pamela Samuels Young is the author of more than a dozen books, most of them fast-paced thrillers, as you just read with Anybody's Daughter, that tackle important social issues. Her book, her thriller, Anybody's Daughter, won the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Fiction. An author, attorney, and motivational speaker, Pamela spent 15 years as a managing counsel for Toyota, specializing in labor and employment law. Prior to her legal career, she spent several years as a television news writer and associate producer. Pamela's desire to see people of color represented in the legal thriller genre prompted her to write her first novel while still practicing law. The Compton, California native earned her bachelor's degree in journalism from the University of Southern California, her master's degree in broadcasting from Northwestern University, and her law degree from the University of California's Berkeley School of Law. To read excerpts of Pamela's amazing books, visit her website at www.pamelasamuelsyoung.com, and we will have that information for you again at the end of this event. Ladies, I present to you Miss Pamela Samuels Young.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and I love talking about this book because this topic is so important, particularly for our community and our young girls. So why I wrote the book. Having over a dozen books, most of them I cannot tell you when the idea came to me. This is one of the few where I remember exactly where I was sitting and the idea came to me. I was having lunch with a friend who was talking about how gangs are trafficking girls. And that stunned me because when I thought of human trafficking, I thought of the Philippines and Mexico and Russia and other places. I didn't think of this country. And when I left that lunch, he just said, look online, look up some articles. And when I did that, I was stunned about what I saw. This had to be 2011 probably. And when I finished that first initial research, I knew I would write this book. And I will say that my education on this topic has changed tremendously from when I first started. You know, I grew up in Compton, California, and I know right now there's a track over on Long Beach Boulevard in Compton where you're going to see even now in the morning to night girls walking that track, young girls. And before I wrote this book, I would see them and go, why are they there? That's a shame. They should be in school. Where are their parents? And they should be arrested. Now I understand. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this presentation is that when you see a young girl out there who may be involved in this, that you understand that she is a victim. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. They are sexually exploited children. And this next slide, where a survivor speaks, the survivor that I know, she's going to help you understand how that happened to her. So if you can play the next slide, play the video.
I was 12 years old when I first got trafficked. My home life was very violent because of the things that I've been through in my life, being sexually molested at a young age, having a family member not believe me when I told them that it happened by the hands of a family member. I felt that no one was there to protect me and no one cared or loved me. When I was 12 years old, I was a runaway. I was just walking around in the streets and a guy pulled up on the side of me and asked me if I was okay. I told him I was fine and I started to walk away and it started to rain. He was like, well, just come sit in the car with me until the rain stops. I was cold and wet, so I agreed. I was basically kidnapped and raped and beaten, sold for days. So from that moment on, I just stayed in the streets. I couldn't imagine myself getting out of that situation. I felt worthless. I had little to no self-esteem. I would literally work early in the morning and I would see kids my age going to school. And it was hard for me to look at those kids because there was a lot of shame. The one way that I was able to get a break from the life was to basically go into a store and steal in plain sight while my pimp was outside in the car. If I was caught stealing, I would eventually get arrested and I would go to juvenile hall. For most girls or most kids, they will see it as a punishment, but it was structure in my life. It was a safe place and I knew that no one will be able to harm me. My life basically changed once I was beaten by my pimp. And I was in a hospital for a short stint of time, and I knew that this was my way out. I was turning 18 and there was no more safety net. So if I was to get in trouble, if I was to steal to get away from a pimp, I was going to the county, and that was a whole nother world that I did not want to be a part of. So I took that opportunity to leave California in hopes of leaving the life. I realized that I was a victim, and then I became a survivor, and now I am a warrior. What I would tell the 12-year-old me, I would tell the 12-year-old me that it's gonna get better. I would tell her that your life may seem like it's being sacrificed right now, but it's going to help so many other women. So just keep on going.
Okay, as I said, I know Tika, and she is really out there today helping other girls, and she is the definition of resilient. I put up these 3 posters because what I want people to understand is that it's not the bad girl who's out there. It's not people have this perception of who's out there. The pimps, today's pimps are recruiting our children on social media and other ways. These were signs that were actually on posters. The one in the middle, I saw myself. The other 2 people sent to me, but I was at church and the minister had talked about my book and asked people to buy it. And after church, a woman came up to me and she said, you know, there's a sign over there on a laundry in front of the, and this was in Compton, in front of the laundromat on a laundry, where they basically, I think it's a trafficker who's advertising. And I went, I drove over there looking for the sign, and that was the sign, the one in the middle. And if you can't see it well, it says adult entertainment, porn, and escort service. Must have a big behind, $75 to $100 an hour. Free housing, hair, nails, smokes, and food. Okay. Now I called that number and pretended like I tried to sound like I was young just to see what would happen. But I called it from a blocked number and the guy wouldn't talk to me. He kept saying, well, you need to call me back from my unblocked number because I'm a businessman. This is business. But this is how traffickers are putting it out there. And think about the young woman and the older woman who's in a situation and she sees free hairs, nails, and food. People can fall for this. And with children, there are 2 kinds of pimps, a Romeo pimp and a gorilla pimp. The gorilla pimp is going to snatch you off the street, move you from LA to Oakland, and have you in a motel servicing 20 people a day. The Romeo pimp is going to romance you, going to take his time, going to buy you food, going to get your hair done and lure you that way. But it is happening, and it's happening to our girls, and it is happening in every state in this country. And look at the one on the right, teen jobs, no experience needed. How many of us would have picked up one of those for a teen we might know? So be careful to know what you're doing. And the next video that plays, when I first saw this, I was shocked because this is really how it happens. So if you think your kid, your grandkid is not at risk, watch this video and watch what happens. And
What's up guys, I'm Kobe Person. How easy is it for a pedophile to pick up an underage child using social media? Well, today we're gonna find that out. I made a fake profile on Facebook posing as a 15-year-old boy. With the parents' permission, I friend requested 3 girls ages 14, 13, and 12 years old. I've been talking to these girls for the last 3 or 4 days, and today we're supposed to meet up. What we found in this video is shocking and something everyone should see. Be sure to watch until the end and use what we've learned in this video to better educate your friends and family. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This first girl, her name is Michaela. She's 13 years old. We've been talking on Facebook for the last couple of days, and we're supposed to meet up at the park later when her parents leave the house. I'm just waiting right now to get the text that her parents have left the house. So I just got a text. My parents just left. I can be at the park in 10 minutes. We're gonna go see if she comes in 10 minutes. We're gonna go right now, set up all the cameras, and just be waiting there for her. So she said she's gonna meet me at the park playground. So this is the closest to her house, she said. So right now I'm texting her that I just got here. All right, we'll just wait, see what she says. She said, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Oh, she's coming, yeah. Michaela?
Where are you?
From Facebook. You remember?
Michaela, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
Sorry.
He could have been a rapist. He could have been a pedophile. Why would you do this?
Sorry.
Yeah, you know that I could have been anyone. Like you talked to me for the last 4 days. You've been talking to me on Facebook. Do you know that? Like, you shouldn't talk to strangers, especially online. Like, I wasn't even do I look the same as my picture? It could be even worse than that.
You realize how scary this could have been? Man, we have to talk.
This next girl, her name is Juliana. She's 12 years old, and we're supposed to meet up tonight when her father falls asleep. So right now I'm here with John, who's Juliana's father. We're gonna see if she's actually gonna come to the door or not. She said, this was the last text, LOL, I would have to wait till my dad falls asleep if you want to chill, because I can't have boys over. So she wants to chill tonight, supposedly. What do you think about that?
I don't think she's gonna open the door. Gotta hope she doesn't open that door.
What's your address?
I pray she does not respond to this.
Well, I can't say the address, but she just literally just texted the address. Start driving to the address close by. My dad's going to drop me off. All right, so she just said, I think my dad fell asleep, you can come now. One with the light right here?
Yes.
I'm outside. Come to the front door. Are you ready? Some chill.
Juliana, get over here. Get over here. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
How can you do this? You're 12 years old. This guy's 20 years old. You could have been raped and murdered. We already lost your mother. What would I do if anything happened to you? What would I do if anything happened to you? I love you. Don't you ever do this again. Don't you ever do anything like this again.
I'm sorry.
This next girl, her name is Jenna. She's 14 years old. We've been talking online over text message and even had a phone conversation. So right now we have the parents of Jenna. Jenna thinks her parents are going out tonight for date night. She thinks my brother is gonna be driving, so she's gonna get in the car, but she doesn't actually know that it's all just me. So I'm gonna text her right now. Did your parents leave yet? Yeah, like 15 minutes ago. Do you think she's gonna go through with this?
No way.
Absolutely not. I don't even believe it's her. Probably
Okay.
one of her friends playing around with her.
What's your address? All right, is this your house?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go. All right. We are here, come out. You don't think she's coming out?
She better not be coming out.
Oh, I see a door opening.
Yeah, please.
Yep. I see someone.
Can't believe this.
Are you Daniel's brother?
Yeah. Hop in. He's in the back. Over here.
Jenna, stop! It's your mother and father! Jenna, look, turn around. Turn around. Turn around. How could you dare go into a stranger's car?
What are you thinking? Just explain
Give me
to
your phone right now. Give me your phone now.
What would have happened if you came out and it wasn't us sitting back here and there were really crazy people back here?
We never would have saw you again.
We watched movies together. We've looked at newspaper articles and the news about all these things are real life situations that have happened. And we've discussed them. What, you think it's fine to go try it out on your own?
But what happened if this van would have drove away and it would have been 3 strangers sitting in this car? Huh? What would you have done? What would we have done when we didn't have our daughter anymore?
You understand, you probably thought you were talking to a 15-year-old. You didn't even know what was happening, did you? You just got in like that. You were going with everything I was saying. You understand now. So never ever do that again. This will teach you a lesson forever. Your whole life. Make sure you guys follow me on Snapchat. You can see all the behind the scenes on every single video before the video comes out. Follow me.
All right. I hope that shocked you as much as it shocked me. And it is happening and it is real. And God forbid I had a cell phone. I'm 63. God forbid I'd had a cell phone when I was 10 years old or 12 years old. Lord knows what I would have been doing with it. So it's a different time for our children. It is a different time for our children. Why is child sex trafficking so prevalent now? A number of reasons, but here are a few. Pimps have easier access to children via social media. They can pretend to be anybody they want to be. Technology has reduced the risk and improved the reward for both the traffickers and the Johns. As I said before, gangs are now trafficking children because they can take a child and sell her over and over again, as opposed to one bag of cocaine or crack or whatever else. And the Johns, I personally believe we're not going to solve this problem until we start arresting the Johns and giving them serious penalties. The girls will tell you their clients are doctors, lawyers, judges, cops. You know, many states, including my state, California, has what's called a John school. What's a John school? It's like traffic school. There were so many cases of men being picked up for soliciting prostitution. They treat it like traffic school now. So if you get picked up for soliciting prostitution, but it can't be an underage child, but still, you get picked up for soliciting a prostitute, you sign up for John School. If you go to this class over the weekend, it will be erased from your record. What does that say about our society? That they needed a way, that the system needed a way because they were having too many repeat offenders. I will say the people who support John Schools do say that it has reduced the recidivism rate. The crime is difficult to detect and to prosecute, particularly when you're arranging the meetups online. Girls are terrified to testify against their pimps. So a lot of these guys are getting off. And another factor that I think is important, we have a much more sexually permissive society. TVs, movies, Tinder, sex is everywhere. You can go to the next slide. These were some popular shows when I was growing up. You never saw Lucy and Ricky Ricardo. They slept in separate beds. Florida and James, I don't think they were from Good Times. I don't think there was ever a scene in their bedroom, period. And I do remember seeing the Bradys, Mr. and Mrs. Brady sitting up in bed reading and talking, but you never saw anything. Now, flash forward to today's images. You know, you watch The Bachelorette and our girls grow up seeing those girls do all kind of things on a first date with a guy. Kim Kardashian is famous because she had a sex video. And I remember the first time I saw that Carl's Jr.'s commercial because the girl takes a bite into the burger and the ketchup oozes down her breasts. Now we're selling a burger. And the bottom image is one I captured. I was in Macy's and I saw the name of, and I said, Better Than Sex. And that's the name of the mascara. Now I will have to say it is the best mascara I've ever tried. But who had the name? Why do we have to call it Better Than Sex? And we have to understand that our kids are growing up in a much different environment than you or I grew up. And let's fast forward to the next screen. I want to share a quick personal story. About 5 years ago now, I got a call from one of my closest friends. I mean, my closest inner circle of friends, panicked saying, I think my niece has been trafficked. What do I do? And I'm like, what are you talking about? As it turns out, her niece didn't come. Her niece lived with her because she had a very dysfunctional situation in her own family. And she didn't come home. Now she was 18. So as she looked through her phone and looked at her online stuff, she began to be concerned about who she was talking, what guys and stuff she didn't know about that she was talking to. And what I did was connect her with a friend of mine who's in the traffic community. My friend went on her the girl's Facebook page, and in 5 minutes realized that she was communicating with a known trafficker. And that trafficker is that guy sitting in the middle of that picture. If you have a young girl or boy, watch Hot Girls Wanted on Netflix. It's the first, there's 2 of them, but this is the first one. Please watch this with your granddaughters and your daughters, because this is how these guys scan the internet looking for girls who are vulnerable. What happened in this situation is the guy sent her a ticket, told her she was unhappy at home. And this was like a very pretty girl, didn't have a lot of friends because a lot of girls were jealous of her, very shy, very introverted, very low self-esteem. He sent her a ticket, told her she was going to be a model. She got on a plane to LAX and flew to Miami. My friend had connections in DC, had the FBI go to this guy's house and said, is she here? He said, yeah, she's here. Brought her to the door. She said, now she was 18. Now she had been 17, wouldn't have been an issue. Could have snatched her little butt and taken her back home. But she was 18 years old. She told the cops, I'm fine, I'm 18, I know what I'm doing, I want to stay here. The FBI agent had her walk down the walkway, said, I want to talk to you out of the sight of this guy to make sure that you're not under duress. And she repeated the same story. Because she was 18 years old, there was nothing the family could do. There were serious discussions about kidnapping her, but that's a whole nother issue. She has not been seen, she has not had connections with the family in that 5-year period. They had her cousins, all her friends, call her and try to talk to her, etc. This guy actually had the nerve to call my friend and cuss her out because she wouldn't send her niece's birth certificate. I have gone on, and I knew this girl before all this, right? And I've gone online and I've looked up found out this screen name and seen her in very pornographic images. We don't know what else is happening, but this is how it started. And if you watch that video on Netflix, Hot Girls Wanted, you will see how these young, naive girls are pulled into this. And people always ask me, so how do I protect my kids? There are a number of ways, but the first thing that should be on here is that, especially when you have a young girl, you need to raise that girl with self-esteem, okay? The first time she's told she's pretty or smart or whatever should not be from the pimp. I remember speaking at a trafficking event a few years ago. The young girl there, beautiful young girl, very dark skinned, had issues with that. And she was trafficked luckily for a short period of time. And she tells the story of how the trafficker got to her. She was walking to school by herself. Trafficker pulls alongside and says, my God, you're pretty. She had never heard that she was pretty before. Then I'm your friend and I'm gonna buy you, get your hair done. I'm gonna get your nails done. Don't tell nobody. Well, then it tends to be a slow progression. That's the Romeo pimp. Well, I'm gonna buy you this, I'm gonna buy you that, don't tell anybody. Well, a month later, I done all this for you. Why don't you sleep with my friend and make some money for me? Well, I've done this, and I've known of young girls who were recruited in college. A young girl who grew up in a very religious, Pentecostal religious family. They didn't watch TV, they didn't have nothing, blah, blah, blah. She gets to college, has her first boyfriend. They're waiting for those kind of girls on college campuses. Again, the same thing, wined her and dined her, and you're beautiful and you're doing all this for you. Well, wait a minute, I did all this for you. Why don't you make me some money? It's just sex. That's how many of those girls are pulled into this. So be aware and mindful. And I always tell mothers, make sure your daughter has someone that she confides in besides you. Now, I've been at events. I was at an event where I'm talking about this, and a woman comes up to me and has her 15-year-old with her, and she's like, my daughter tells me everything. I don't need to, blah, blah, blah. And the girl standing behind her, rolling her eyes. I didn't tell my mama everything, and you didn't tell your mama everything either. Be it an older sister, I don't know, an aunt, somebody else. Make sure there's somebody that if it's not you, and hopefully it is you, but if it's not you, somebody that if somebody approaches them, because we're all sometimes scared of our parents or what our parents are going to do. Make sure your daughter has somebody that she can confide in. Know your children's friends. One of the things that my girlfriend said that rings a bell now is right before her niece left, she had befriended this Latina girl. And my friend was so happy that she finally had a connection and had a friend. But the girl would buy her expensive things, right? Like she bought her a very expensive pair of shoes. And there was something that my friend said it didn't set right. But by the same token, she was happy that she had made a friend. Well, we now believe that girl was part of this guy's trafficking ring and would recruit girls. Again, they're on college campuses. They're looking for girls that have a low self-esteem. They're out of the house for the first time. My friend of mine dropped her daughter off at Spelman for their freshman year, went through all the things, and gets back home and gets a call saying, Mom, we were approached by pimps today. Now, my friend is a vice cop. So her daughter is schooled about all this and knows what's going on. But she's at Spelman being approached by a pimp. But she knew what was going on. And unfortunately, I think so many of us as parents, we try so hard to protect our kids that they need to know what's going on. We set them in front of the TV and they watch all kinds of things, but they need to understand that there are bad people in the world. Monitor your kids' online activities. Know what they're doing on these social media apps. Add a GPS tracker to your child's phone. It likely may never happen, but in case it does, we older people like me need to be more savvy. Well, I don't know how that works. Well, learn how it works. Learn how social media works. Know what your kid knows, and have a safe phrase for your kid. Maybe I'm okay, or the cat is red, or something means I need help. And have a safe sexting symbol. And it's sad that we have to say and do all this, but this is a reality that we're living in. So many of our children are being trafficked and being snatched off the street. I've had the opportunity over the last 6 years of meeting so many girls who have been in this situation. And I just come away feeling like they're so incredibly resilient. The fact that they're getting back there. I mean, I've talked to a girl, a Latina girl. This was the most heartbreaking one, who her mother let a pimp traffic her. I remember another young girl who got beat up by her pimp because she went to do the job, and then the guy didn't pay her and threw her out of the car. So the pimp beat her up. And luckily I'm seeing these girls after the fact when they have the resources and they're getting their lives back. And like I talk about Black women being resilient, we are so incredibly resilient. If you want to donate, find an organization that supports housing for these girls, because if they pick a girl, a 12-year-old who's been trafficked off the street, they can, and they're no longer charging them. They're now treated as victims. So when I first wrote this book, A girl, a 12-year-old who was arrested for trafficking, was sent to juvenile hall and treated like a criminal. Now she's treated like a victim and getting resources. But you cannot take that 12-year-old who's seen all that and put her in a normal foster home, right? Because she's seen too much and she's been exposed to too much. So there's a lack of resources of housing for these girls. That has to be a specialized setting for these girls. So, and so if you ever think of something that you want us as an organization support, find one of those homes that are taking these girls in because they need the support. And realize that those adult women who are out there being prostitutes, 90% of them, they say, were sexually abused as children. And what happens is the girls get all these resources if they're caught, if they catch them before they're 18. But once they're 18, it's like in the foster care system, they just drop you. You're on your own. But those women are sexually exploited as well. So I don't care how many times the child says, I love him and this is my daddy and I know what I'm doing, I want to do this. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. They are sexually exploited children. And I'll leave it at that and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
There's a question in the chat. How much does this apply to boys?
You know, I think one of the sad things is that it's not tracked as the way it is tracked with girls. I think it is less severe, but it is out there, particularly among like the pedophile community. But I think I have not run across resources that tell me that boys are trafficked in the same way or as often as girls are trafficked. You know, after I finished writing Anybody's Daughter, it crossed my mind that I wanted to write a book from the pimp's perspective, okay? Because obviously, you know, these pimps have sisters and daughters and mothers. So I put some feelers out in the community and tried to get a pimp to talk to me, right? It took a while. Somebody agreed to talk to me and do an interview, but they wouldn't do it in person. They would only do it on the phone. And the guy was 25 years old, grew up in a two-parent home, very articulate. He told me, this is a business. You will not stop it. My clients, he said, I only deal with Asian and he said men another race. It wasn't Black clients. You know, he says they come to see my girls on the way to work and on the way home from work to do what their wives won't do. And obviously, when I got off that phone, I was like, oof, I can't write a book about him. I was just so depressed. It was so depressing. And he said, once I get in that girl's head, you're going to have a hard time getting her back because she's mine. Because if I can convince her that I love her, you know, and, you know, as old as I am, I'm started dating recently, you know, I still take the okie doke from a brother, right? So what am I going to do at 12? What are you going to do at 12 years old? When a guy's telling you, I love you, and you're the only one, why don't you do this for me? These are children. So I'll say it again. There are no such things as a child prostitute. They're sexually exploited children. Next question.
Thank you. Is indentured servitude as prevalent here as in other countries?
When I first started this, and when you say indentured servitude, do you mean sex trafficking? Do you mean that there's labor? People are trafficked for labor. There are all kinds of indentured servitude. There is a rise in labor servitude. I do know that, but I have not studied that specifically the way I have studied child sex trafficking.
Thank you. Question in the chat. Are girls more likely to be targets of sex trafficking from strangers or from those they know and have built substantial relationships with?
And substantial relationship isn't required, and it's typically most trafficked girls it's a stranger. Many of the girls are runaways because they're in situations like Tika where they were being molested and somebody's not believing them and they're running away from home. there are abusive situations, there's neglect, there's, I've read something about, I want to say almost 50% of some of the girls, in one particular study, that there was a connection to Department of Children and Family Services, meaning there's a family where welfare services were involved. But while that may be a large number, a friend of mine, one of my law school classmates, a girl was being trafficked or was on the phone with her pimp, and her parents are communicating where her parents are in the next room. You have to know what your kids are doing online, and you cannot assume, and it's not like they're a bad kid. They are naive kids. And and today I think we protect our children so much. I mean, I was, a latchkey kid. I could come home and let myself in and all of that. Today's kids are so, I think in some respects, so sheltered that they lose the ability to judge and think for themselves in many cases. And particularly those young girls that are leaving home and from very protected environments and then going to college, the pimps are roaming the colleges looking for that girl. And all they need is one or two. If they snatch her and take her away, think about it, and they're selling her over and over again at $100 a pop, 10, 12 times a day. That's a moneymaker for them. So self-esteem, talking about this, California passed a law in 2018 that now requires sex trafficking to be taught from middle school on up. It is just that much of a problem.
There appears to be a hand raised with Shalina Atlas. Can you come off mute?
Yeah, thank you so much. And first of all, I do want to extend my thanks and gratitude to the Domestic Violence Committee, to Arts and Letters Committee for putting this together, to our sister Young. This book really, this really is like an epiphany for me. First of all, and just like any other things that we really need to start being loud about in society, we don't really get loud until it comes on knocking on our door.
Yeah.
It's like until, somebody in your family gets breast cancer, you ain't marching, but now you want to walk in every walk in the whole world because now it's at your front door. And when I saw this opportunity, I said, I'm not going to wait till it comes to my front door. Praise God, up until now, it hasn't. But I said, but now is the time that I need to get educated about this. And when I got your book, I purchased it Friday night. I started reading it Saturday morning, 6 o'clock. I have not been able to I didn't go to bed till 3:20 this morning reading this book, okay? Because number one, it did educate me. Because if you don't know, you don't know, and up until this point, it's just been like a movie and a story to me. But how you wrote this was so captivating. It made me feel like I was one of the characters trying to find my niece and get her out of this situation. And so thank you for just the awesome work that you're doing with your art. My question to you is, especially when your family or you have not been touched by something like this, but you have an experience like this, you want to immediately say, what can I do? How can I get this education in my church, in my community, in my school, whatever? And so I don't know, are there local, regional, or national organizations that we can just punch up and say, look, I've got a crowd, can you come talk to us?
Yes, there are. I'm sure. And when I saw your list of resources, I was surprised that I didn't see any local lists. And I think I can follow up and try to help you locate one. But there is such a need. I've done this presentation at multiple churches, and that's where it needs to be. A friend of mine who is like a fighter, she's like the woman in the book who's help with saving the girl. She went to all these churches trying to get them to talk about trafficking, and they wouldn't do it. I'm proud to say I went to my mom's church, my church. We've done the presentations, and that's where we need to start. We need to be talking about it. A lot of times in our community, we don't want to talk about things. But it's happening there, and it's happening to our girls. And you're right. We don't want to wait until it personally impacts us. but find one of those centers, locations. I mean, because if they're, what are they doing? What are they doing? Where are they housing the girls in your community? They have to take them somewhere and take them off the street. Find the woman or the organization that's housing them. They need support because it is hard, and they need homes and places for these girls, and they have to be a specialized place because again, you cannot put a child who's seen and done that much with other children, other innocent children. And I want to just add that I have anybody's daughter, but I also have a shorter young adult version. And I just had Los Angeles Unified School District just ordered 1,000 copies of this book, and they're going to be discussing it this month. This is a child's version, and the child's version has a hashtag in front. I said hashtag anybody's daughter, and the regular version is just anybody's daughter. But I wanted to something that could, a shorter version that could get to children and talk to them. There's also, when I speak at LA Unified at the end of the month, there's a young woman, she is such a powerful speaker. She's in her early 20s, she was trafficked, kind of like Tika. She will captivate the room, she will speak to the girls and speak their language. And that's what you need to hear. Because a lot of these girls need to understand that when you're sneaking off or talking to somebody on Facebook and your mother doesn't know, he may not be who he thinks he is. And they will believe that from somebody closer to their age than they would from somebody like me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Question in the chat: what types of legislation or advocacy should we do to reduce incidences of human trafficking, especially for minors?
Need to continue the push for tougher sentencing for these guys. There are now federal laws that do that. And I'm happy to say that wasn't the case, that it wasn't as strong when I first started researching this subject. Also, education in schools. The kid, like somebody said, you don't know if you don't know. Our kids need to understand that this is happening. So we need to push for legislation. I'm proud to say California's law now requires it to be taught in schools, but some states, like, they don't want sex education. They don't want the, but our children need to know this is happening. Our children need to know what to watch out for. Our children need to understand that predators are on social media looking for them. So those are two areas of legislation, the education and the tougher sentencing, that would be great to push for.
Question in the chat: and anybody's daughter, what inspired the character Uncle Drew?
Uncle Dre. I'm always looking for a guy that I find sexy first, no? And kind of a tough, kind of roughneck. I wanted the reader to feel that if you haven't read it yet, Dre is an ex-drug dealer, but he's gone straight, and his niece is his life, and he knows how the streets are, and he's out there combing the streets looking for her. He's not going to give up because he's just that kind of guy. So he wasn't anybody that I knew. He was somebody that if I were missing, I'd want Uncle Dre out there trying to find me.
I have a question, continuing on with Uncle Dre, and it is in the back of the book. Did you approve of the tactics that he used to find his niece? And what would you have done?
As a lawyer, I should say that violating the law is no. I approved it. I personally approved of it because your time is of the essence. One of the problems I had in writing the book is that as I was writing it, I got to the point where I had to write a scene where Breonna was raped, right? And I couldn't do it. And there is no rape of Breonna in this book, right? And I couldn't do it. I said I just could not write it. And then I was like, how am I going to write this book and publish this book about trafficking when it never ever happens? And then it came to me, if I have this take place over a 5-day period, it can get close but can not actually happen. I think that helped with the pacing. So that's how I came up with the idea Monday, 12:45, Tuesday 3:11, where you're seeing his push to find her. And that came out of just not being able to write that scene or take it that far, even though that is what is happening to our children. And I think I got off point from the question. Tell me again. We started with Uncle Dre. What was it?
No, the question was, did you approve of the tactics
Yes.
he used? And you talked about it, and what would you have done?
You know, I mean, that's all you can do. It's back then. I mean, today there are resources, and today they're like, for instance, LAPD now has a human trafficking division. So if a girl is missing, you can call them, you can get in contact with them. They have resources, and they know what's happening, they understand it. Long Beach, California has one. If you're in a community that you're fortunate enough to have that, great. Otherwise, you got to get out there and comb the streets. You gotta, it helps to have some hood connections. You know what I'm saying? That's what my girlfriend called me. And then I called my friend who's in the trafficking community, and she was able to go on the Facebook page and identify that guy. And it's all that kind of, and that's what it takes. God forbid, but hopefully, God forbid, your child has a phone. You can track the phone. I mean, and it's is of the essence, because these guys they are still snatching girls and taking them out to different states. You know, I don't know what has been happening since COVID and all of that, but it's real. It is real.
It looks like we have a hand raised with Angela Grimes. Can you come off mute and speak?
Good afternoon, everyone, and to the author. I concur with what has been said so far. This book really just shook to the core. And as a former NAACP, I remember when you were given that Image Award, and I kind of put it then, it touched me, but now it's so prevalent as we see in North Carolina. I asked a question about Uncle Dre and what inspired that character, and wondered, in doing your research, was there opportunity, not only what you witnessed through the legal system, but did you have to forge any relationships, I guess better like a word, in the field with the street folks who could give you some insight as to the fact that this is now, we've moved from drugs to gangs now making their money through human trafficking?
Most of those real contacts that I've developed after the book, because they were so happy about the book and they ended up promoting it for me. But there's a woman in LA, her name is Reverend Deborah Mans. She has, 2 homes that's housing these girls. She is out there pulling them off the streets. And I had to, and I had told her that I wanted to go out with her one night, right? Until she talked about having to hop a fence and run from a pimp. I'm like, woo, girl, at my age, I don't know if I can hop a fence and run from a pimp. So let me help you in other ways. Because she is like Laretha. She is like down out there on the streets, the kind of woman I would want coming for me when it gets like that. But I do have a ton of resources now. So if you guys want speakers or anything, and the most powerful speakers are the girls who have survived. I mean, Tika, you want Tika as a speaker. There's a couple of other young women. You want the young woman who was recruited in college. That's the woman I actually had connected her with a links group that had her talk to young girls who were about to go off to college. That, and that's the girls that she knows how to reach, because that's a girl who's never had a boyfriend and gets to college and thinks she has a boyfriend now who's wonderful and loves her, until he starts messing with her head and saying, sleep with my friend for a little money, make some money for us, I love you. And to talk about how easily she was moved, from this choking religious family. And I'm a Christian, so I'm not, and it's not a big to bash that, but we have to let our kids know how to think and have experiences. So she had no idea that men like that even existed, because she was so sheltered. But I have met tons of people and tons of cops who are out there on the front lines helping our girls. You know, it's been such a great thing to see the change from 2011 to here we are 2022. A sea change. They used to arrest these girls and treat them like prostitutes, but they are sexually exploited children.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pamela, there's a comment in the chat that says, my favorite hood connection in the book was Apache with his crazy self.
Now, I gotta say, Apache was kind of based off a real character, so to speak. My ex-husband has a cousin named that they call Cherokee, who was kind of a hood dude, but who knew how to get stuff done, kind of in the same way Apache did. Apache, I love writing Apache. He's one of my favorite characters. And I want to take a moment to also talk about my latest book, which kind of got lost amid COVID. It's called Failure to Protect. It was another issue that happened where, learning that the suicide rate for African-American children under 12 is twice that of white kids. I'll say it again. The suicide rate for African-American kids under 12 is twice that of white kids. And when I heard that, I remember it was Christmas Day 17. Friend of mine who lives in Alabama, sent me articles about two little girls who hung themselves because they were bullied. Right? Christmas Day, she was kind of mourning. She's a teacher. And the next morning I thought, how can a 9-year-old, and I'm only going to divert for a second, because this is such an important topic. How can a 9-year-old know how to hang themselves? And I went online and I started putting in suicide and bullying. Every article that came up where the child was over 12 was the white kid. Every child that came up where the kid was under 12 was Black. Do the research yourself. And that next month, I've never wrote a faster book. than Failure to Protect. And as a matter of fact, I kept the pictures of those little girls. They both hung themselves. They didn't know each other. They're both they lived in Alabama. I kept them on my desk while I wrote this story. So your next issue, your next topic needs to be with child suicide. It is happening. If you had told me before I wrote this book that a 12-year-old would, I don't know how to hang myself. How does a 12-year-old know how to hang themselves? So the story really is about a young girl who was being bullied and how the principal doesn't really want to deal with it, and how the mother actually sues the school. But it deals with the issue of what's happening to our children in that regard. So I'm sorry, I wanted to get a little plug in for Failure to Protect.
We have a hand raised. Dana Fields Johnson, if you'll come off mute.
Thank you, Sora Bankhead. A couple things, Ms. Samuels-Young. People keep asking about Apache and Dre. I wanted to ask you, was the young attorney in the book, was she based on you? Was that based on your experiences?
Yes. When I first started writing, my female character, I would always say, no, it's not me. But it's pretty much what Angela thinks what I think. Mm-hmm. I step into Angela's, when I'm writing Angela, I'm basically writing myself. So I will have to say yes.
Awesome, because I appreciated the point you were making about needing to fight this from all sides. So, Angela was doing it on the law enforcement, criminal justice front, but the hood was taking care of the hood, so to speak. And I was also struck by how many folks were protecting what he did, what the pimps are doing to young people. And so it just really feels like we all have to step up more to be advocates and to stop this as much as possible. And then my last question was about the connection to schools. I thought that was really interesting. The kind of surprise at the end. And
Don't give it away. Don't give it away in case somebody hasn't read
I
it.
won't. I won't. Can
But
you
yeah.
talk about that? Can you talk
Yeah,
about
you
whether
know,
you're seeing that more?
Yeah, actually, and there have been I've only read of 3 cases where school people have been involved in that. But people go where the money is. You know, there are criminals in every profession. And luckily, I've not seen a lot of that, but I have seen some of it.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Kelly Jones, you've had a few things to put in the chat. Do you have a question for Ms. Young? You seem to have quite a bit of experience.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, first of all, I was going to say thank you so much for taking out time to speak to the group today. The human trafficking is a very, very serious matter. I actually did a human trafficking program with Knightdale High School, which is in Wake County. And the amazing thing to me was that when we did the program with the guidance counselor, you could see the kids actually exhale, and that they had things to tell, whether it was about the parents and the situation they were in at home, or the things that were going on with them in particular. So what it did was it opened a pathway for, after our conversation, for kids to come talk to me, or kids to actually make appointments with the guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor said that that was one of the more successful presentations that they had done. My question was, with everything that's going on, and yes, I did read, I've been doing a lot with student readiness with the NAACP locally, and the suicidal ideation rate right now is 60% higher for African-American females, African-American female adolescents. And for women and females in general, it's 50% higher. So my question to you was, with all this going on and the platform that's out there, is there anything being done to help the administration, the teachers, the guidance counselors, et cetera, to hear when children are speaking up? Because it's not like when we were there, that was the first time the children had the incidents going on. It was something that was going on beforehand. There just wasn't a platform for them to speak up. So is there anything that can be done to help in that arena?
You know, I think teachers have such a tough job, particularly now with COVID. You know, I mean, I talked to a principal friend of mine, and they, you know, they're trying to test and do all those things. And there's this push and pull that there are parents who don't want you to explore and answer those questions. So it's a very tough situation to even talk about, you know, trafficking. I spoke at a school in Chicago, in the Chicago suburbs, and they chose to read another one of my book, which is Abuse of Discretion, which is about teen sexting and what's happening to our kids. They didn't want the parental backlash by reading anybody's daughter. So I think part of the problem that we got to just stop hiding and being afraid, and our teachers need the support. And especially our public schools, they're barely, you know, you can't teach 40 kids. I mean, what's happening in Los Angeles Unified School District is outrageous. So they need the financial resources to bring in the people that can talk to the kids and help the kids. And it's the answer is no, not enough's not being done. And what needs to be done, they need the money. And then we need to stop hiding. We need to face the fact. I mean, this whole thing's with when I learned that the suicide rate for kids under 12, what? It just, again, something that's not on my radar. Only after looking at the picture of those 2 little girls, it just broke my heart. But we need money and we need resources. And do I see it happening soon? No, particularly not where it's needed with our kids. You know, the kids in the private schools who have the 2-parent homes and they're gonna get help. Our kids who don't come from those great families, they're being lost by the wayside every single day.
There's a comment in the chat. Thank you for saving Brianna. I was so afraid that she was not going to make it.
I had to, come on now.
Yes, a question from your book, Pamela. Why do you think greater focus isn't placed on the clients who drive the demand for sex trafficking?
Because you'd have to change the laws, and the men are behind the laws. Like the guy told me, my clients are doctors, lawyers, judges, police, and they come to do my, he said they come to see my girls before work and after work. You know, there have been several states that have they would put cameras out, and when they saw guys come pick up a girl, they would publish their names in the newspaper. The ACLU intervened. They hadn't been convicted of a crime yet. They couldn't do that. You may remember the show To Catch a Predator, where they set up a girl in the house, and they caught rabbis, ministers, doctors, lawyers, police, they caught every walk of life. And again, that show was canceled because of lawsuits. So I think the same way I think men are controlling our body as to terms of abortion and all those things, not to go too far afield, those are men that are making those decisions primarily. And men aren't, if we knew some of the things we knew, like I said, when the girls will tell you who their clients are, I think that's part of the reason why we haven't been able to cramp it down. We have to go after you are not going to stop this until you stop the demand. And you're not going to stop the demand until you come down hard on the clients. When the clients can get the same penalties as the pimp, we might make an inroad. Until then, we are spinning our wheels. And the first thing we need to do is try to educate our children so they can see these guys coming a mile away, particularly those young and naive girls, even those girls who are 18 years old and headed off to college. They are just as vulnerable as some of these teenagers walking the street.
And so I think you answered this question of why do you think the sex trafficking, particularly minors, sex trafficking has reached such epidemic levels? And I guess it's because of the demand for young.
And it's easier. The technology has made it easier. And, you know, and I asked someone once, if they can go get an adult woman, why do they want a child?
Exactly.
They're pedophiles. They consider the young girls fresh. That's a response that someone told me, that they're more pure because they're 13, 14. But by and large, the technology and our society where sex is everywhere. I think that's partly to blame for the prevalence, the increased prevalence.
Okay, do we have any other questions, comments?
There appeared to be one on the chat. I'm not sure if it was covered. It said your book revealed that this type of stuff doesn't just happen to runaways, so sexually molested and unloved young girls, someone who isn't smart, etc., but rather attracted to a young boy, pretty normal for young girls. Do parents have to be more open to allowing little friends to come over and sit on the porch, or what?
I just think you need to be aware and to talk to your child, to know what your child is doing, and to not think, I think many of us, myself, think, oh, that can't happen to my child. That's somebody else's child. But I'm telling you, my niece, and one thing I forgot to say is that after my niece's friend had gone away, you know, flash forward 2 years or whatever, she's watching that Netflix video that Hot Girls Wanted and sees her niece in that piece. She's not one of the ones who speaks, but there is a hot tub scene where she is in, and she said she literally fell off the couch. So it's sometimes I'm just speechless behind it. We just all need to be vigilant. We need to be talking about it. We need our church to really embrace it. Many churches do. I've spoken at lots of churches, but more need to embrace it because our people will do what the minister tells them to do, okay? So we really need more of our ministers behind this.
I wanted to make mention, I have a daughter in that same age group. She's 13 now. And I'm like, you know, cop's daughter, my husband was in the military. He told me how many people in military, the women that have pimps, or it's shocking the numbers that you see. And I spent 10 years in child welfare. Now I'm with the federal government I can see people coming in that are trafficked as well. But I'm mentioning my daughter for a reason, because we had all the safety features on all of her she doesn't have social media, but all of her accounts for her phones and her tablets and things like that. The day that she turned 13, all of the safety apps that we had went away. It was up to her to give permission at 13 if she wanted us to continue to monitor her social media or her information on her phones, as well as her email. I was shocked. And guess what she did? She chose no. So
wait. Why did she have that permission?
At 13, for like her Google account, for her tablets, we use Family Link. We use a couple of different apps.
Okay, but you can change that. She's still a child.
We did.
Yeah. We
okay.
did.
Oh, we did. But she had that permission. So I think people have to be mindful that once they turn 13, just like when they're going to the doctors, and they have the permission to say, hey, I want mom and dad in the room with me, they have that same information or that same right to emails. And like all the safety links that we had up there, the day that she turned 13, she had the nerve to say no. So we had to get that fixed real quick. But that was just FYI.
And it's crazy that it's 13. That's too young.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I was shocked. And I was more shocked because, you know, like I said, I worked in child welfare, and I tell her stories and I share information about, you know, we see in my world, the federal government, we see the women that are mail order brides, and I'm like, if you can just tell me, just promise me just to at least remember your name and your age, because they don't speak the language, they don't have any friends over here. I'm like, can you just please just those two things, remember your name, remember your age. If you can just remember that for me, that's great. You know, and so she hears the stories that I share with her, or I've shared with, we used to live in Louisville, Kentucky. So the Derby was a big trafficking event. And I'm very candid with her, like how easy it is and how people think I'm pretty. And so that's why guys want me, versus no, they want your services, not because you're cute. That's dime a dozen, you know? And so I was shocked that when she had that opportunity on her 13th birthday, that she chose no. So we had to get that fixed really quick.
And a lot of parents don't know that it's going to switch over at 13. So that's something that many parents don't know. I didn't know till you just told me that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
At 13,
how did she find out?
I got an email stating that the parental controls were disabled at the age of 13, and she had the right to say yes or no. She wanted us to continue to monitor, and she chose no. We had to get that really quick. And I see there's Shalina Atlas, you have your hand up.
Yeah, but I know we're coming to a close, but in the interest of time, I just wanted to pick up on something that Ms. Young said earlier that really just stuck with me, and it made my heart beat a little faster. It's that some of our girls, they respond so easily following their naivete when somebody tells them they're beautiful because they haven't heard it. And one thing, my brother has 3 daughters and a son. And I will never forget his oldest daughter. She was, I want to say 12. And we were just at like a community function or something. And there was somebody, and he was in our crowd, you know, he was not a threat or anything, but he said, you know what, you are a beautiful young lady. She looked at him and she said, oh, my daddy tells me that all the time. Tell me something I don't know.
I love that. Oh, I love that.
So what happens is when our babies get out here and it's the first time they heard it, mm-hmm. It's a thrill. It's something that they won't forget and they will dream about. So we got to make sure our children are seen and that they are heard. when they talk, we have to, you know what? Stop the presses. My baby is talking to me. Hold up, wait a minute. I'll get back to you in a minute, baby. What you want? You want to talk? You want to have a conversation? Let's sit down. Let's get a cup of purple Kool-Aid. You know, come on. You know, because oftentimes what happens is they will respond to the first person that will sit down and listen to them. And the first person that tells them, you are beautiful and I love you. They need to get that from us. I don't have a biological child, but I'll tell my nieces, I'll tell my little cousins, I will tell the neighbor's child, because that's this is our tribe. And our babies don't need to be hearing it for the first time from some chump on the street.
Exactly.
Okay, I know we've got just a few minutes before we end, but there is a very good question in the chat, and I think I lost it. Well, a comment. Can you share any information on trafficked adults?
I don't know those numbers as well as I know what's going on with kids. And I haven't heard a lot in recent years about adults being like taken out of the country. Now, I do understand that it's prevalent that adults are coming into this country and going into other countries, et cetera. But I don't particularly know. I did not particularly study that. My focus had been primarily on children. So I don't have those numbers handy. But I will next time in case somebody asks me. Okay.
All right. Thank you. I'm just gonna end this if everyone's minds and hearts are clear. I know we could probably go on another couple of hours with Miss Young. But I do want to say, and I'm gonna have Soror Davis, our president, give the last words. But Pamela, on behalf of this entire chapter in Wake County, North Carolina, everywhere, as well as our visiting sorors, family, community, friends, thank you for spending time with us this afternoon, for sharing your expertise in the area of sex trafficking and allowing us to know you and realize your passion for advocating for anti-trafficking. As I previously stated, Pamela's website, to read excerpts, you could visit her website to read excerpts of her amazing books, as well as join her mailing list at www.pamelasamuelsyoung.com. Also connect with her via the various social media platforms. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to President Davis.
Again, I would like to thank you, Ms. Samuels-Young, for coming before us today. This was an excellent discussion. This actually gets our minds at ease to know this is something that we really have to put more time and effort in and educate ourselves in order to basically go in the community and meet the needs. So thank you for opening the door for us to have that discussion today. To the co-chairs, Ms. Wade, Ms. Bankhead, you did an excellent job. Devane and Phil Johnson, thank you for partnering, two committees coming together to talk about this sensitive topic. To our chapter members, to the members of other chapters, and to our guests, thank you for joining another program and event under the Raleigh Alumni chapter. We hope to see you at future programs. I hope you all have a great evening. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Ms. Young, and we will see you again.
All right.
Source, if you don't mind, if I could just chime in and just put a plug in for our internet safety workshop. If you all can please save the date for January 27th at 6:30 p.m. We are going to continue this discussion. This is so important. We want to gain further insight and skills that we can apply on how to protect our most vulnerable during the annual Internet Safety Awareness webinar. Teens do not want to be lectured. Rather than telling them about online safety, we want to start a discussion on this topic and share information on how tweens can use devices and media and how to not select yes, I want to disregard my parents from seeing. So please plan on attending. We're going to learn tactics on password safety, inappropriate content, socializing online etiquette, privacy settings, cyberbullying. Again, this is more important now than ever. So you can register at raleighdst.org/be safe. And then we are going to continue even into February. So on February 1st, please save the date for our Tech Tuesday. It is going to be on social media. So we just hope that we can, continue to promote our social media destinations in a safe and healthy manner.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Young.
All righty, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.